Hello everyone, I am Mr. Low from Excel Software. Today I want to share with you the AutoCount Consignment Module. What is the Consignment Module? Basically, it's a keyword which is consignment. It could be your supplier consigning to your company to sell, or you consigning to your customers to sell. It's usually encountered with consigning shoes or clothes to department stores. So there are many department stores where you consign and sell, and only after selling do you account for the money. If it hasn't been sold, it doesn't count as money. So in this situation, the consignment module is very important. So this consignment module in AutoCount is actually not just used in sales situations. It's not just for customers where you consign to your customers to sell, but also for your supplier to consign to you to sell. So it has this function on both sides. Let me explain it today. So I'll start with the sales part. So generally, the logic is like this. You first consign a batch of goods to your customer, and after your customer sells them, you issue an invoice. After issuing the invoice, you need to check how much balance is left and then decide whether to restock or return the unsold goods, and then consign another batch to your customer for sale. Of course, you also need to look at some movement reports, maybe some stock take reports to see how much balance is left when it reaches there. So these are some details on how to handle these consignment functions. So let me explain how AutoCount handles these consignment functions. First, you must have this module. Choose Program Control Module setting. You must have this consignment module. If you don't have this consignment module, then you need to contact your dealer to purchase this module. Once you have this module, you will notice that in the sales section, there will be consignment and consignment return, as well as the consignment movement report. The purchase section is the same, with purchase consignment return and the purchase consignment movement report. So the functions on both sides are basically the same. So I'll first show the consignment on the sales side. So let's say you now have a client, and the client is customer A. You have 3 items for consignment, so you put these 3 items. Before that, let me first make a purchase, then you will see the stock balance. Currently, there is no balance here. So let's first create a purchase invoice. Let's say this purchase invoice here is directly for 3 items, and for each item you store 100 units. So let's say we have this consignment. These 3, and then we make a consignment. Of course, you can first check the stock balance. You see now we have the quantity, which is 100, 100, 100 before we do consignment. So now let's first do a consignment. So you see after doing it, what its effect is. So consignment to customer A. Suppose the consignment goods are 2 items. These 2 items I consign are 30 pieces. So I plan to sell them for $10 each. So this has not yet charged the customer, until the customer confirms the sale. Then you issue an invoice to bill the customer. So in this situation, you see the consignment format is actually not much different from the invoice format, not much different. So when we check the stock balance here, you will see that the balance is still 100. It is still 100. But when you look at other reports, because this stock is still yours, it still belongs to your company from the stock perspective. However, if you look at these inventory physical worksheets and the physical worksheet by consignment, you will see that it is actually separated. For example, in the inventory physical worksheet, you will see that the balance quantity is still 100, but 30 have been consigned out, so the actual on-hand quantity is 70. It will update that quantity in this report. Similarly, when you look at some stock cut reports, the stock cut report will also show that these 30 have already been consigned out, okay, to your customer. This way, later I can think about how to verify this balance. So now we go back and look at the system. So after consignment, maybe a month later, the customer has already sold part of the stock. And since he sold part of the stock, we just need to go back to this consignment here. Right click. You can partially or fully transfer to invoice. So here, if he sold 20, this one sold 15, you just enter 20 and 15. Or if he sold 20 here and sold 10 of these, you just enter 20 and 10. So you just right click and it can transfer you to the invoice. Of course, if you have multiple consignments, you just go to the sales invoice. The sales invoice here is a bit more steps, but you can also transfer from consignment there. If he has more than 1 consignment and his stock, you can transfer it over from here as well. So if you only have 1 consignment and haven't transferred it back yet, I suggest you directly right click and transfer to a new invoice. You see the second time I transfer, it already calculates the balance, showing only how much balance is left. So this is more convenient. You can also directly right click to do this pressure or fully transfer for a consignment return. Usually if the goods are lost, your customer, you placed it there, they lost your goods, you need to return it, then you use it. Or if they want to return the goods, they don't intend to let you consign it there for sale.
So here I will do a sample. Let's say I do 5 or 7, and one of them is a loss. So I will do it like this.
Now, the key issue arises, you see there are many ins and outs. So if you want to see where it transferred to, you can right click column chooser, and here you have the transfer to and transfer from. You can pull out these two columns and then you can see if there is a consignment return or an invoice.
Save layout for your convenience and the future. When you open this consignment again, that column will still be there.
But this doesn't represent its completeness. Before I go in to see how much balance is left, I'll first show everyone this view flow. So view flow can show if payments have been made or if there have been returns. So there's a whole process of flow. Well, for those who are just starting to use AutoCount, I'll explain this view flow function.
Then I'll talk about the balance. Just now, of course, the balance, you can certainly right click to view it like this.
But if you have many customers, for example, there's also a customer B who also consigns items for you to sell, or you place them in their store to sell. So in this situation, let's say you place 25 items for each consignment to sell there. So you look at this customer, there are two customers over there, and you need to check those balances of the goods in each customer's hands. You can do this through the pre-listing. Here, the print listing has a print outstanding listing. You can use consignment details for more detail, and then you can see each items you can group by customer. So you can see each item's balance in each customer's hands. So this way, it is clearer. There are 30 consignments, but there are still 5 balances in his hands, 8 balances, 3 balances, 25 balances. There is this outstanding consignment detail listing. Okay, this is one way to check and confirm how much is left with the customer.
You need to check. There are many reports here. I won't explain them. You can take a look yourself. There are many useful reports here. Very useful reports. Of course, when you issue an invoice to the customer, for example, you issue it. Just now I used the simplest method, directly right click, transfer.
If you are invoicing to sell to customer C, you need to check those consignment details. Actually, you can also use our insert info. When it's below OK, it will have this consignment quality.
If you have other customers who have used some goods a few times and those goods are stored with your supplier, you can see if this customer is a consignment customer through the following or through this. So yeah, if you want to see, there might be two situations. The first situation is that you have consigned some goods to this customer B and they are still with him. You can see it right here below. If you want to check, you can immediately use the show insert info. Here you can see the quantity, outstanding quantity. You can also, if it's another situation with another customer who is not a consignment customer, but your goods are not enough. Okay, not enough to supply. In the future, when you need to check your goods, you can check your goods when making an invoice through the stock balance. You can see if there are any goods still on consignment with other customers, and you can retrieve these goods from that customer to sell to customer C. So this insert info is usually used in this way for two purposes. The most commonly used function also, the last one is movement. How can we check its movement? Just now we had some ins and outs, sold to different consignments to different customers, and when the customer sells, we issue an invoice. So if we want to review that movement, actually you can directly do these consignments. Actually, you can directly use this consignment movement report, which is similar to something like a stock card. It's a bit like a stock card. There are two formats. One format is the total for that month, how much you consigned, how much you returned, and what the balance is. Another one is more detailed, 2 reports. You need to look at them carefully. You need to look at the details like the date of consignment return and the date on the invoice. You can use the more detailed report for all of these. If you only want to look at the specific customer, you just select one customer here, then you inquire, and it will only show all the ins and outs of that customer's items. It is grouped by item. Besides that, you see, sometimes you ask the salesman to check the inventory, but when you ask the salesman to check the inventory, you can't take the stock balance because, as I mentioned earlier, the stock balance actually includes the consignment. The goods are actually yours, so this stop by this doesn't have the available quantity. This is its actual quantity. But if you want to do a stock take, I suggest you use these two. Let the salesman do the stock take. So, first, let's talk about this inventory physical worksheet by consignment. You see, here I can select 2 at the same time, 2 customers at the same time, and then I can inquire. So you can see here what goods this customer still has on hand. It allows you to view all the consignment items the customer has on hand at the same time.
Okay,
Besides, these functions are not only in the sales module, they can also exist in the purchase consignment, which is when your supplier places some goods with you. Actually, these functions all exist. They all exist. It's the same logic, or if not the same logic, you can refer to it yourself or do your own testing. So I won't say much. Instead, I want to introduce these reports in the context of consignment. So how do you check those balances? What useful reports does it have? So let me first talk about these two and where the differences lie. One is the inventory physical worksheet by consignment, which is used for stock taking. This one shows all the goods you have placed with the customers and is used for stock taking purposes. So you can print this out for each customer one by one. Or at the same time, if your salesman is responsible for 10 malls, you need to use a physical worksheet to guide him to check the goods at the customer's place. In this case, you use this inventory physical worksheet by consignment. Another inventory physical worksheet has two formats. One format can exclude the consignment. This is the regular one we use for stock taking. So remember, for stock taking for consignment, do not use stock balance. It includes the consignment quantities from the customer. So it is not used for stock taking purposes. For stock taking purposes, you must use the inventory physical worksheet. So where is the system? So the system is right here. For stock take, we use these two for stock taking. This one is for stock taking our company's own goods, and this one is for stock taking the other parties. You placed consigned that inventory, consigned how much you need to stock take the goods on their side. So these two formats. So this inventory physical worksheet, you see it has not only its quantity on hand. When we stock take, we use 45 instead of 75. You see our preview, you must use this one. If you use this one, it is already different. It is 75. So if you use the second format, it's 45. This format of 45. So if your goods have not been returned yet, it's best to use this physical worksheet for stock take. So you cannot use stock balance. And as for stock balance, basically because it still belongs to you. As long as it hasn't been sold, it still belongs to you. So this balance is 75. It is 75. It doesn't have that 45 balance until the customer sells it, then you charge. So this is the logic of consignment. So another report is the inventory physical worksheet by consignment. For this, you must go to more options and check which customer you want to view in this report. So in this situation, it will list all the customers. So these are usually used by salesmen when checking inventory at the client's place. Very useful features. So you can print for many clients at the same time, or just print for one. Print one for each customer. You see there are many options and features there. You need to look carefully. Including if you have customers with many branches, you can also print according to the branch. So this is its usage. The usage of consignment is just this simple, these few reports. So afterwards, there are some more useful ones, like the report for checking the stock balance for order purposes, reorder advice, okay? And stock card report. These reports, you can see that it is when you separate out what is for consignment, then forecast your quantity. It has a forecast quantity, it has a consignment. So you need to pay attention to this. You can also just now that reorder advice and the purpose of ordering. The purpose of ordering is also you can show that, but I didn't fill in that balance. If I filled in that balance for each item, it would automatically generate the purchase order for me. For example, if the reorder level needs 200, okay, each time I order, I want 300. So for another item, I also need to set it. Let's say it's also 300 and the reorder level is 200. So I just, after setting up, you look at the reorder advice. Then there are two that need restocking, and you can directly generate the purchase order. So if you don't check, it will use 75 okay to calculate. If you overchecked it, then use 45 instead of 40 using the forecast quantity to calculate. So there are two different quantities used for calculation here. If you notice, and if you want to restock, wait for the supplier to order, then generate the purchase order. And here, if you have filled in the supplier's name, it will immediately help you generate the purchase order for the supplier. Also, this is a powerful feature of AutoCount. And the last one is the stop cut. Okay, stop cut. Pay attention. Actually, it has the forecast quantity here. There's the forecast quantity next to it. There's the consignment quantity. So of course, the balance here will not show where the consignment goes. It only shows on the doctor side. Even though you see 75, but here, as long as it hasn't been bought for a day, it's still your goods. So it won't show you here. It has already been deducted from which supplier, which customer, or which supplier's consignment stock. So we said if you really want to see, you can look at that. The consignment moment is what I mentioned earlier. It's a bit more detailed. You can place a bit more detailed quantity. You can see to whom the different consignments are given, these goods. Or another thing, as I mentioned earlier, you need to check in the situation of certain goods and who else has these goods. You can also use this detailed outstanding, and then you can group by item. This way you can see these goods who still has this balance. So I'll repeat once more. And there's one last thing. If you want to see who has the goods, you can look up this inventory fic worksheet by consignment. These reports can all be viewed, but this is only for stock taking purposes. But if you want to see it in more detail, to see whose hands the goods are in, then you use this outstanding detail. For detail, remember, you can send it to the item code. It doesn't have to be with the customer. If you want to see the balance in the customer's hands, then use the customer one. Just switch to item code, all in this situation. These reports, so take a look at my notes. Is there anything I missed? I have mostly covered the reports I wanted to talk about, and then there are some more related plugins. So usually it's more obvious, not saying it's unrelated. Other plugins or modules might have an impact. So one of the modules that will have an impact is the item package. It's more obvious, like we can, let's say, consign a whole set of computers to someone, or consign a whole batch of laptops to a certain computer store. In this situation, it's using two modules together. Then consignment can be combined with item package like a hamper. If you have a batch of goods for the new year for 2 months, 3 months, you place that batch of goods in different accounts to sell. This is also called consignment. Adding those item package functions so you can see how much is left in the package. So I will make another video about this. If you're interested, you can refer to my other video regarding item packages or some more obvious features like serial numbers and how to use them when the three modules are used together. So I will end today's video here. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. Thank you, everyone.